everything, a lot of things, not everything,
Yeah.
and post it on YouTube. So first thing's gallery, right? And so up here, if I didn't have lined paper, I would have typed it in, and then you could put in any kind of paper you want, and it'll just keep over, like, I'm, you could be an elementary school teacher,
Yeah.
whatever. So I do that for my notebook, and I use graph paper a lot more than I actually use the interactive graph, because it's more flexible, and we can talk about that too.
Okay.
But the other thing that's really nice about the gallery is I have content in the gallery now, and I'll show you how to save things. But now I can look and say, I want to do sixth grade area of an irregular polygon, or teach an area of a triangle. And then I have like a template that now I can throw into any notebook, and then just do 2 sample problems.
So this is a template that you created.
Yeah, I created it on the fly in one class. So if I was going to just do something, important, smart things, right? Then first of all, you could recognize. If you recognize, then it doesn't erase. And then maybe you have a list of things that you want to keep. Whatever. Well, if you don't have time, if your printing's really bad and it doesn't recognize, or if it's symbolic, like if I did 3/5 x plus 6 and I didn't have time, when I try to recognize it, it doesn't really recognize it. But I want to use it over and over,
yeah.
I would lock it. Okay, and then when my next class comes in, I could clear anything that's in ink. But if I have ink and I didn't have time to get fancy,
right,
then I lock it.
So you have a problem to start with for your next class.
So I have a problem to start with
for
next class.
But you erase all the crap you throw around.
Mm-hmm. And then at the end of the day, if it ends up being a really good problem, that's when I would go to math tools. I mean, ideally, right? Sometimes that's how your day works. A lot of times, right? You have some equations, and then you might say, well, I want to use this over and over and over. So that's this is your equation editor right here in Math Tools.
Okay.
And then just click, and it's just a regular equation editor. So, I look at whatever, and I might say I really want to do some equation, or y equals. It's a little weird looking sometimes, but I just ignore it. Like, so maybe I'm going to have 3/5 x minus 6, and it works just like any other equation. But, and then I would go and I'd unlock this, and then boom, stretch it, and then maybe you want to have the kids graph it, so then you could go back to you could go to this dual to see what you have. If this is, see when I click the red banner, so this is the page I'm on. Now I might want to go to the gallery and put in line paper, and then, get a grid in there. And then say, we're going to do graphing. Then I would have all this work in theory. And then I could go to this page sorter here, and then I could just say, add page to the gallery. And then right away, I would title it.
Yeah, consider it lost.
Yes. So at that point, then for my class, I could just work all over this and save it or don't save it, but it's always in my gallery.
Is this recording your voice right now? It is, okay.
So one option is to use grids, and then, use the line tools and make your graphs, which, I know you can do. And then the other option is to do the graph where you use this graph. So here,
Right.
you just have options, and you kind of want to like play with your options.
Yeah, that's one thing I found before that I was lost at one day. I'm like, where did it go?
Mm-hmm. So for a lot of things, this is the better option because you can't do intersecting lines on the interactive.
Oh, you can only do one line at a time.
Mm-hmm. You know, so there's pros and cons.
Yeah.
Um, so those are kind of some of the daily basics that I
Okay.
use. And then for geometry, I use the polygon tool a lot. And you actually, and I'll do regular polygons, there's a lot of them. So that's kind of handy, right? Octagons or whatever. And then you can teach,
Hey.
hey, Warren, what's up?
I'm sorry to interrupt.
No worries.
This is Bill.
Hi, Bill.
Hi, good to meet you.
Warren.
Warren. You too. Thanks. Real quick, I'm trying to make sense of this.
Okay.
So is this only Wednesday and Thursday?
Yeah,
The block?
it depends.
So Monday and Tuesday, we don't have a block schedule
So,
during park?
no,
Sorry. No worries.
so then you've got your polygons or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
What's really nice about this is there's a couple of things that are, I don't think you can on this one. But the divide shape is really nice option for circles. And I will say that when you have a lot of interactive, single pages is better. At least in yours is a newer board, but for fractions, you can do divide shapes, which is really nice. Even for geometry, where you kind of teach circle area,
Mm-hmm.
So the divide shape is really nice for that, and it's also works really nice with rectangles. And it's really interesting how they do this, because if you do it vertically versus horizontally, it will divide. I'm trying to think, there's times where, you can't, I feel like it divides a certain way sometimes, and sometimes it writes the fractions in, and sometimes it doesn't, and I'm not really sure why, but it goes horizontally, and then these pull apart, so you can use that in the math tools a lot. So that's something like that I use to design things, just to design things,
Okay.
but I also use it in front of the class, because when you're doing any kind of breaking apart, it's kind of handy. So that's a nice tool. In other things, like in my geometry class, we would work really hard on looking at things in different views. So sometimes you'll have here's an example, an obtuse triangle, and it's one of those problems where, if you had to do a construction,
Mm-hmm.
you could actually go up here and you've got your compass tool. So, this is a really nice tool.
Oh, okay. And that comes with math tools, or
And that comes with math
Okay.
tools. So you have geometry, right?
Not this year, but I will next year.
So, this is a super nice tool.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it works great.
Yeah.
Um,
So you can do like ortho center.
Everything. and there are some limitations. There's got to be some kind of pixel limitation. Like, you can't always get the compass. If you extend a line, there's a little bit, you want to go horizontal as much as possible. You can't always get the compass maybe to be exactly where you want,
Right.
but it's pretty good. And I just tell the kids, and I even record things, like there's a thickness of a line error. We talk about all different types of things. So
Mm-hmm.
here you might even say, well, the thinner your pencil, the less error you're going to have.
Right.
And you can show them that, and they'll start to see that even more
Mhm.
with your tool. So the compass tool's really nice.
Okay.
The other tool that's really nice is if you want them to look at something from a different point of view. So in geometry a lot, like there was this problem that they do a lot, and it has to do with finding missing values. And maybe they tell you like this is 10, oops, you know, just kind of from the book, this is 10, and you're supposed to find X.
Right.
But you know that this is 6, and then you also have some altitude out here. And the book has like an extended thing here. And they tell you that, you know, maybe this is like 9. And kids cannot see that those are the same.
Mhm.
You know, and so what's really nice about the smartboard is you can take your shape with that polygon tool, and I think I didn't hit it right, and then rotate it so they can see, you know, you can trace it, and you can pull that shape out and rotate it. So you can
Right.
take any shape and reorient, and that's a really nice thing. And if you want it to be filled, you could have it filled. Thanks, Warren.
Thank you, Joni. Is that just crosstalk? This doesn't apply to you?
I think so.
All right, yeah, thank you.
And then you could say, oh, I really want it transparent, so we could see what's under it.
Mhm. Well, especially for my 8th graders who
Right.
can't see the height.
For anybody, right, though, because it makes a lot of the math way more dynamic. So, like, just looking real quick at what's really nice here, on just a quick sample of something we recently did here. With the notes, a lot of times I'll just post them, I'll export them as a PDF, but you can kind of see like some sample solutions, you know. You could just snip pictures from the book, which is I'll show you next.
So where'd you get this original Saturday Triplets page from?
That's my page.
Oh, you made that?
I made it, but I'll show you. I just snipped it from the book. So those notes I have, like I will go to like a new smart file, right? And kids will say, well, Miss Carew, can you do problem whatever? And then in my website, I'll just tell them to give me a page in my book. You know, they're like, well, I need help on page whatever, 459. And so, you know, while they are walking in, they're telling me what page to go to.
Mhm.
And then I just type in whatever page, 459 or 458. And so then they're saying what problems they want help on. And so,
Well, that's really good for those ones where they have like, you know, find these 15 angles, 80s.
right, so here's what I do. I just take the camera tool, and my book is open, and I have this camera, and I snip it, and it goes, okay, it didn't go into the right file because I didn't have the camera in the right place, but that's okay because I can cut it. Oh yeah, because I had opened a new file, so I could put it wherever I want, and then lock it down. So there's some kind of weird ghost there. I don't know what happened, so I'll just do it again. Because it wasn't there.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Oh,
So that's never happened to me, ever. So that's funny. It could be that I have so many things open right now. So let me close a few things up.
Okay.
As you came in and I had a lot of stuff open.
Very busy when I came in.
I know.
Hormones.
That was pretty funny. The calculator's part of it. So let's try it again. So I do this almost every day. I just go to the book and then I take a picture of it. That has never happened to me. That's so weird. Wonder if it has something to do with that. So that's so weird. So sometimes I will say where things happen.
Yeah.
And then, I would do a reboot, just restart.
Yeah.
Because I might just have too many things open. But
So then once you get it on this page, can you write on top of it?
yeah, for sure. So it's so weird. Let's try one more time. Now everything's closed. So I don't know. I would just restart it. So yes, you can. And so we could just bring something up.
Can you save this and send it to your website?
Yeah,
Just to
yeah.
look at?
Two things. So let's say I did this and I want to do it again in the next class. And I'm not sure if I'm going to get it done in the next class because everything the day before went wrong. I've clone it sometimes. And I've got the same thing twice. And then I'll clear the ink. And then I can do just the kinds of things you were talking about, right? Like I can just start working the problem out. And do whatever, right? So then we maybe get through part of it, but we don't get through all of it. And I say, that's okay, you guys, I'll post it. And, if they're in a panic, I'll say, look, we did this in the other class, or these are the ones we did in the other class. So the way I do that is I export it. So I go to File, and I export the page as a PDF. And so I would just say what pages I want, and then I would have to go back here because I didn't pay attention. And then I'd say, I really just want page 6. See the number there, or page 5.
Uh-huh.
So then export as a PDF. And then page 5, and I'm going to do a save. And this was chapter 6, so I would just go put it wherever.
Okay.
And you'll see in my chapter 6, I didn't have a ton there, but in my chapter 8, so then I've got that. Okay, so like now I've got this is gone, and then I can just go to, you'll see like chapter 8, I did it a lot, okay? Because of the nature of drawing all those pictures and blah, 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 they might have had more trouble, we had more absences. So when I go to my website, then I just add that at the bottom of my page. And then I take them off after the chapter because there gets to be too many things. So like in my website, I'll say some solutions worked out and post it below for extra help, whatever, right? So down here, I would just add files, and then I would just go to that folder and pick the file that I want. So, the one we just did was in chapter 6. So just double click on it. And that came from Smart, but now it's a PDF. And they look really nice.
So so that's the question. So the ones that come from Smart, they don't distort it?
No.
Like,
I mean, the
Word
kids...
sometimes just reorganizes.
Mm-mm. It's
So really just took a picture of it.
I just took a picture of it. And I didn't do a full page because I didn't select that. So, meaning, like, if I went back to that, like to one of those, when I had exported, I think I just,
So it shouldn't have been that small.
yeah, I usually do a full page. I just wasn't working that hard. So if I wanted to export this page, so I'd say File, Export As, PDF, and then I should have picked full page. And then
Oh, okay.
it's bigger, but they probably don't care. Does that make sense? That's okay.
That was my boss saying that my sub is a mess sub.
Oh. So,
Yeah.
and then when we're done on the website, for geometry, I just dump everything at the end of the about a week after the chapter's over, because it gets too long. But like where you could really see the Smart notes being really nice for 6th grade, old notes, I've got all of these came from Smart. That was a Smart file, just a worksheet. Area of irregular shapes. That's just, so this was that polygon overlay where I used the tool that fills things in. It's just stuff. How are we doing?
Good. Overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Well, it's good that you're recording it because.
That's why I know you were laughing, but then you could kind of go back because I just did a lot of stuff. But it's really weird that camera had a problem. So I've never had that problem. So I'm curious now if I just take a picture. It's still doing that. So there's something like weird going on today. I don't know why that's happening. Although it didn't do it there. So let's see. Like maybe it was just too many things open. So where I really use this is worksheets too, right? Worksheets from the online text. That are just so, in geometry there's so many pictures.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of times I'll post the worksheets for the kids so it's easier for me to access them. And so when they come in, they're like, Miss Crew, I can't do number 6. Camera's up, boom. All right, they're walking in, and that ghost isn't there. Usually there's something kind of slow going on, but the ghost is gone now. So I think maybe too many things are open. If I don't hold shift down like anything else, it could be distorted. But then I got this, and now if I want like to lock it into place, I can do the order thing, send to back, so it's behind that,
Mm-hmm.
I can then, also say I want to add some color. I want them to focus on something, so I can take that circle tool and, of course, I wouldn't really on this, but, you could do a fill, like I said. So if something like this came up, I would lock it down, because when you write on it, you accidentally move it sometimes.
Right.
Okay. And then, if they had trouble visualizing something, like maybe that triangle, then I would take the polygon drawer and I would probably give it color right away and say, well, let's just take a look at the triangle separately, you guys. So they have like this visual and then of what's going on. You might make it a little more transparent. And that's what this does, you know. So there may be times that you want to do that, and then you might say, okay, let's just blow that up for a minute. It's supposed to be a right triangle, you know, so from 7 to 11, you know, we're 4 units, and then from 1 to -4, we're 5 units, or 3 units, and then you can talk about the fact that, yeah, right, so this must be 5, so then you can put 5 back in here, and then something that really, really helps kids is, you know, you could say, for a lot of geometry problems, you're like, you guys remember, the radius could be anywhere. That kind of stuff really helps them solving problems where they always put the radius in the wrong place. So you just have little things like that, and you know, if you really want to draw their attention, you know, change the color of it, you know. So that's kind of nice. Sometimes when there's something really boring, there's plenty of boring things that you have to do sometimes. You can use an animation. And so like I animate things once in a while. Like you might just be like warm up, whatever, you know, and you want to draw their attention. If you have too many animations, your files, a lot of times I'll use them and then you maybe delete them because your files just get, you know, slow. But say they're coming into class and you just want their attention for whatever reason. So what I just did is I went to properties. I'll do that again. So let's say I want to get their attention, go to properties. So I use this for like if something has rotational symmetry or whatever. Then I can animate it, and I can have it fade in and out. I can have it flip around the axes. I can have it just shrink and grow, which I do a lot. And I can have it repeat forever until the object is clicked. And then when you enter the page, you know, so the class is just like, wow, but, you know, it might just say, you know, something important.
Right.
So I do that a lot. But I also use it, so I right-click to delete it. But I also use it in vocab, like in the beginning of the year for boring things in geometry, like chapter 1. Definitions, for example. So a lot of times I'll just have them, or we can talk about those tools too, like here. There's hidden things. So if I just want to do a quick hit on things they already know, they're already there, but I hid it. So when I look at the properties here, the animation is that it fades in when the object is clicked. And then sometimes I'll do like a matching. And so I'll go to 2-page display. And then they'll come in, the kids will come in, and I'll be like, okay, who can match? And then they'll just be like, I can, and they'll just pick this up and figure out where it goes. What did it say? It has a measure between, look what I picked up, 98. Okay, so an obtuse angle. So a lot of times I'll clone this page before I do it, or I just don't save what I changed.
So you just created 2 different pages?
So I might have this page and it was on the fly. I live on the fly sometimes, and so I know, so I'm going to clone it. So then I don't worry about that they messed it up. And then I'll just have somebody come in and say they'll want to do it, and so then they'll just bring these over. You know, or we can just undo. Or you can also, you know, like do diagrams and have an infinite clone. So in the end, you can just clear them off on one, like there. So right here, what this is, well now, like I can move this, but you notice like I duplicated this, so
Right.
you can click on this and do infinite clone. And that's really helpful for building a lot of math concepts. You know, where you're trying to build a square. Like one of the things that I think is kind of interesting for kids to see is like how, you know, how we build fractions or area. So I just infinite focus. And anything like this just gets their attention.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I'm just building. Oops. And so suppose you want to show them how to approximate the square root of 12, then and you want to use color effectively. So you could say, well, you know, this is the square root of 9 is a 3 by 3, but 12, so then 10, 11, 12, so I know that falls between the square root of 9 and the square root of 16, so this is 3, and I'm 1, 2, 3 more on the way to my next perfect square. So I'm 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 on the way. So I know that my good approximation is 3 7, so I just wrote this, and if you can ask questions about it, and I'm not drawing mine,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
When you are doing this, your kids come up and do stuff?
Mm-hmm. So yesterday,
And I know the matching one you did.
well, but even yesterday, like for 6th grade, we were doing percents with ratio tables.
Mm-hmm.
So I recorded them just for fun, you know, and so here. So we're gonna find 5% of 600 and talk to the class after, you know, tell them how you did it. So it has to be loud to hear them.
Okay, so what I did is after you got those numbers, I divided it by 10. So I got.
So then they just work up here.
Show your little
Just the kid drawing.
steps in case somebody.
Or
later
they'll
goes
say,
back and they-
can I do it? And can somebody else draw for me?
And then
Because
after
they
that,
can't write.
I done the
Okay.
math,
Like there's a couple kids that are like, can I do it? But can so-and-so write?
Mm-hmm.
and I got.
So they come up.
Right.
A lot of times I say, no, we don't have time.
So,
Yeah.
I just sent
It does take longer.
if you haven't already, 5% of 60 is what?
And when you, is the
Or 600 is.
comes over here, that's close enough to pick up stuff?
Right. So for us, right now, if we just stop that recording,
Mm-hmm.